Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to be here at the first International Congress on Stem Cells by the American Association of Stem Cell Physicians. I'm Dr. Ron Klatz, and I am the president and founder of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, the world's largest. Thank you. Thank you so much. The world's largest preventive medicine organization. Okay, we are the vanguard, the first organization to take the position that aging is no longer inevitable, that aging is a disease process, and that this disease process can be intervened, just like any disease process. And so every one of us should be looking forward to a life expectancy of 100, 110, 120, perhaps 150, perhaps more. And that's what I call practical immortality. And this conference is all about finding the answers to those aging problems and about the new technologies of stem cells, growth factors, and other very exciting things that are going on in the field of biotechnology, in the field of longevity medicine, anti-aging medicine, regenerative medicine, whatever you want to call it. It has many names, but this is the next generation of healthcare.
If you were able to cure right now every case of diabetes, heart disease, and cancer, it's been estimated would extend human lifespan by 13 years. But when we can tackle aging and actually get a handle on this process that Dr. Klatz has been speaking about, it's been estimated will prolong life by 30 years. So we need to do both, but this is a shift in medicine to really not just extend lifespan, but what's called health span, so we can actually enjoy those years. And as my friend Russell Jaffe says, I just want to be 120 and I want you dancing with me, is kind of the goal. Health span, lifespan, aging.
And this technology is at hand. And that's why I'm so pleased to have such an excellent group of leaders in the field of biology and clinical practice.
I'm an orthopedic surgeon by training. I've been in orthopedics for many years. And about 13, 14 years ago, I started getting involved with stem cells in a big way. And at that time, I was getting a lot of flack from all sorts of people saying, you're a very reputable orthopedic surgeon. Why are you going out on this tangent? And they were really giving me a lot of slings and arrows. And now I feel vindicated because these same guys say, hey, can we come and train with you?
I'm currently the Chief Scientific Officer for IMAC Regeneration Centers, and we're really trying to pioneer a lot of the very special things that are associated with stem cells and stem cell products. So I'm extremely happy to be here, and I'm excited to talk with all of you today.
My name is Dr. Jeffrey Weiss. I'm honored to be included to sit at this table with these esteemed gentlemen. I am an ophthalmologist, more specifically a retinal specialist. When I left academics at Harvard, I came to Florida. I opened a private practice. As an ophthalmologist, the most horrible thing to me is a patient who has lost their vision. And for many years, we have so many conditions that we say are, quote, untreatable. And that always upset me. And the patients would say, well, are they working on it? Well, I came to realize there is no they, there's me. So I began to work on these, quote, untreatable conditions that cause blindness. In 2010, I did the first retinal stem cell surgery in the world. I had to go to Germany to operate on 2 Americans because I was not allowed to by the FDA in this country. In 2011, I did 7 American patients in Vienna, Austria, again, because I could not do it here in this country. November 2012, I have an institutional review board study that's approved. We are registered with NIH. We are listed on clinicaltrials.gov. I have now operated on more than 500 patients in this country. We have 7 articles in peer-reviewed journals. We published 3 seminal papers, the first papers in history to show improvement in Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy. non-autoretic ischemic optic neuropathy, and retinitis pigmentosa. And I hope to continue this work. Thank you.
My name is Doug Spiel. I'm a physician out of New Jersey. I own a private practice there. I'm also the chief medical officer of Chimera Labs, a company that makes stem cell products known as Exosomes. When I stepped upon and stumbled upon regenerative therapy, I realized that this was a way not just to make patients better, but to fight off diseases before they occurred. You're going to ask us a number of questions tonight, and we're going to hopefully answer them for you. But one of the things that I want you to realize is that today's technology can help you now. This is not something that's off in the future. It's not something that we hope our children's children embrace. You're going to hear many specialists talk tonight about therapies that you can utilize now to actually live longer. So I hope as you take this journey with us, you all realize that the images that we're going to share with you tonight and the stories are real stories from real patients today.
Hi, I have a question. What is the most interesting part of this conference that you think is going to lead to practical increases in health and potential human lifespan from this conference in the last 2 days?
In the next 10 or 12 years, about 20% of the population will be 65 and over. And most importantly, when you get to 65, about 50% of you will be insulin resistant or type 2 diabetics. So both stem cells and stem cell products are going to help you in 3 ways. By decreasing inflammation, you will help insulin bind the receptors. You will decrease apoptosis, as the gentleman to my side realizes. You'll stop killing your beta cells, and you'll prevent the beta cells from dying off that produce insulin. And maybe most importantly for all of you, as you get older, you will succumb to what's known as sarcopenia. Your muscles will start degenerating because you get what's called capillary rarefaction. Your capillaries, the little blood vessels that supply all the nutrients, will die off. By putting in stem cells and stem cell products, you'll build more capillaries, meaning that both insulin and glucose can have an easier access to the muscles. The muscles will grow because all of these growth factors will wake up the satellite cells, and the muscles, which are the most metabolic tissue in your body, will increase metabolism, thereby also lowering your glucose levels. So 3 take-home points, both stem cells and exosomes, for everyone here will help fight your type 2 diabetes.
From my perspective, our entire body is completely full of stem cells. Every single tissue in our body has stem cells. And as an example, if we were to magically remove all the stem cells from your body right now, you'd probably have just a few hours to live because your body is constantly regenerating. The way that I see the future of this field is that we're able to harness that power that's already within our own bodies. We're able to communicate with those cells, reactivate them, re-energize them through cellular therapies and through potentially exosomes. But we need to re-engage those cells, we need to educate those cells, and we need to make sure that those cells know what to do because they're really quiescent. They're very tired, they're very sleepy. When you're very old, you're losing a lot of cells. Your demand for stem cells goes up. But the pool of stem cells goes down. And so with stem cell therapy, you're able to reactivate that pool and you really re-energize the regenerative potential of the body. So that's my 2 cents.
I was most impressed with the fact that I'm not alone, that I'm not working in a vacuum, that there are many people here with similar interests and desires and force of will to continue working in this field. And I am so encouraged the fact that together we can do so much more. A house divided cannot stand, and with increasing regulation, it's important for there to be a unified, focused, rigorous voice in this field so quality health care can be performed.
Well, Dr. Klatz and I came up with a question about telomeres, shifting focus a little bit, and the fact that the Nobel Prize in Medicine was given in 2009 for the discovery, yet here we are 9 years later, and there's not a lot being talked about at this conference. So we'll take another few answers. Do you think it's fading in importance as we look to the next 10, 11 years of longevity research, anti-aging research? Is it just awaiting a breakthrough, and is it anything you use in practice. Maybe Dr. Dayton to start off with.
One of the problems with the field of telomeres is there's a lot of conflicting information. Studies that conflict on methods of evaluating telomeres, and also you have problems with conclusions that the different researchers have. So it's difficult to come to a conclusion when there's so much conflicting information. And telomeres are they're like tails at the end of chromosomes. And I've always wondered if the chromosome is wagged by the tail or the tail is wagging the chromosome. And I don't think we have the answers to these questions yet.
Has anyone died of short telomeres? I mean, I wonder, because I hear, the telomeres were such a hot topic and so widely reported in the scientific literature for many years, and I'm looking for the dead bodies. Who's died because they have short telomeres? A normal adult, not someone with Wilson's disease, but who has run out of telomere length, where their body has, reached a point where it no longer reproduces. And I would love to hear an answer from someone who feels comfortable to answer that.
I just want to ask also, I'm curious of this table, how many people have had their own telomeres checked? Seriously? Okay. Yeah, I thought it would be
That's four.
How did you have your telomeres checked?
SpectraCell, an average white cell.
You gave a blood sample.
Right.
Well, I can't think of a single blood cell in the blood that I would be interested of its size of its telomeres. If there's only two cells I can think of right now, and maybe Ian can help me, which is a long-term hematopoietic stem cell or a mesenchymal stem cell that is in its own niche, that I would care what its telomere length is. Because otherwise you're looking at T-cell, all kinds of leukocytes that there's no point in looking at those, actually. Those replicate rapidly, they die, they're replaced by other cells from the bone marrow, from those HSCs that I'm talking about. So until you're going to start pulling people's bone marrow and looking at those telomeres, you're not going to come to any understanding.
Okay.
Last answer.
To take a different point of view, I like the work of Dr. DiPinero from Harvard. He kind of says, hey, telomeres kind of are a unified form of aging. And what he said is telomeres cause DNA damage, and then it sort of gets picked up by, and we then get senescent cells. And everything is all tied together. When you sort of have telomere damage, you then get senescent cells. Hopefully the p53 gene picks them up and kills them. But when they don't, we start getting a lot of bad problems. So I think telomeres are important. It's certainly not the answer. Now, in reference to Ron's question, I think there's a lot of literature out there that a lot of diseases seem to have short telomeres. I mean, it's very much in the scientific literature. And we know, for instance, progeria, the disease of young kids, very short telomeres. So I think it's not as important as we thought, but everything we're going to talk about tonight, it's just one facet of aging. And that's it. And I think if we can get the telomeres longer, and in reference to Duncan, I don't think it's a matter of, okay, they're long or they're short. I'd like to see what's happening with certain treatment protocols. If all of a sudden I see a trend, because we do one type of stem cell that we're finding is increasing the telomere length of the immune system, and I think that's where things are important. You're as healthy as your immune system.
In the media recently, there's been a lot of talk about Sinhalytics, new drugs that help to remove old cells from the body, and the scientists who report on this, at least in animal studies, are claiming a 30% increase in maximum lifespan, which is unprecedented. And now we're looking at people who are taking the drug Rapamycin, because Rapamycin happens to be a very popular senolytic agent. And we're looking at people using quercetin, which is a nutritional substance you can get at almost any good health food store, which is a natural senolytic. Is there anyone here who's familiar with this research and who would like to discuss it? Please, Dr. Peretta.
Okay. Actually, I helped design a couple of supplements for the supplement field in this field. Now, one thing I'm kind of working on is something called the p53 gene. That's the granddaddy. That's called the tumor suppression gene. And if you can the problem is 50 or 80% of our cancers have a mutation of that gene. Now, if we can get that gene to work more efficiently, we're going to have something very special. Sinhalytic agents are good. There's one from John Hopkins, I believe. It's UBX0101. They're using it for osteoarthritis, and they've had some phenomenal results putting it into a joint as an injection. So I'm really high on Sinhalytic agents. I think that's going to be one nail in the coffin of arthritis and a lot of diseases of aging.
If we think about an elephant's 100 copies of P10, why they don't get cancer and we only have 2, the messenger RNA for these tumor suppressors that you're talking about are present in exosomes from younger tissues. That's why younger tissues don't get cancer. So in vitro, just the exosomes from an umbilical cord cell have been shown to stop the proliferation of myeloid dysplasias. So I don't know how far that research is going to go, but that's...
No, I think we always have to be careful manipulating the human body. In the cardiology world, we had the CANTOS trial in November where we lowered C-reactive protein through an interleukin antibody, and it did improve cardiovascular outcome, but there was a rise in infection and a drop in cancer. And when you sort all that out, it's very unclear. That's not a drug that will be commercialized for cardiovascular disease due to the cost, but the methotrexate trial on cardiovascular disease will be announced in November and was stopped prematurely, and nobody knows why. I think for a positive result is the rumor. So we want to shift. It's going to be Halloween in a few months. Summer's going by, and the vampires are out, and we're talking about sucking blood, young blood into older bodies, something called parabiosis. But Dracula was the first anti-aging doctor, perhaps. So who would like to comment? You want to comment on that?
Yes, I will comment. Parabiosis actually started around the Civil War in 1864. A guy named Burt started putting, they're known as heterochronic animals, old animals together with young animals. And the studies have been followed for many years, as recently as Stanford University has done it, where they will suture old rats to young rats. And one of the things with these heterochronic pairings, and it's very interesting, we know they're not actually stimulating each other's, they're not sharing stem cells, but they're sharing some kind of a lifeblood, if you will, so that the older rats get younger and the younger rats get older. And so there's a lot of things that have been sought as, what is this fountain of youth? So there's a couple of companies on the West Coast. They're much more forward thinkers than us East Coast guys. So there's Ambrosia and Alkahest, and you can go into either one of those, and you can essentially go and get a couple of liters of plasma. And if you're an old person with Parkinson's or someone else, you can infuse yourself some young blood from some younger people. And the theory is that your Alzheimer's will get better and you'll feel younger. But what's really behind that? If you imagine that all the stem cells of your body are attached to capillaries and they release their products and their secretions, those secretions get in the blood. And if the blood is shared between two animals, then the stem cell secretions, very dilutely, or the plasma that you're getting at one of those two places are probably getting in. And what is that doing? So just like Ponce de Leon has essentially 400 years ago searched the whole globe in order to find the fountain of youth, I think that's what we've been trying to get at with parabiosis. Importantly, the reason the fountain of youth works is that these secretions, whatever is non-cellular in these mixing of the two populations of plasma within the two animals, it basically effectually turns up the inherent stem cells of both animals or turns them down accordingly. So if you're an older individual, you will recapitulate the secretions of your youth, and therefore whatever stem cells are still on board living in niches throughout your body, they'll start working better.
One of the things I'm involved with, it's a very unusual cell. It's called a V cell, very small embryonic-like stem cell. It's found in the patient. It's maybe a third or smaller size than a regular cell. Now, we've done a number of cases where we've taken it from either a daughter or a granddaughter or a grandson and given it back to a parent or grandparent. We think that that may be one of the clues of maybe what's going on. These cells are very finicky, but they're very potent. So that's one of the things that, at least my thoughts are, it's definitely the secretions, but it also may be these V cells. And I suggest you go online and read a bit more about them.
Dr. Klatz, next topic.
Who wants to speak about autophagy?
Autophagy, self-eating. We talked about drinking blood, now we're talking about self-eating.
And no opinions?
Well, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Please.
So this is obvious.
Please.
This is the theory of aging, that it's your garage just getting full of garbage. You never take the garbage out. Never take the garbage out. You can't park your car anymore. It's not really a functional garage. You got to clean it out. And our cells, over time, accumulate all kinds of metabolic byproducts until the cell becomes non-functional and dies. But there's reparative mechanisms called autophagy. The reason I've been particularly interested is I'm the bad cop. I use nutrition a lot in my practice, and it's been a breakthrough in the last year and a half to two that there are nutrition-based plans that have clearly been shown to up autophagy, associated with decreased inflammation, decreased markers of cardiometabolic poor health, and actually cause stem cells to be released naturally from the bone marrow. And that's all something called the fasting mimicking diet, something I do every month for 5 days, 800 calories a day, 5 days in a row, and everything sort of stops hurting for another month until you choose to do it again or skip a little. But this is something that was the focus of the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2016, and there's a translatable, actually very safe program. And just if you're not aware of what a fasting mimicking diet is, please look at that up later, because it's a unique ability that's out there now and being used by thousands and thousands of people, and it's food, which is very cool. I don't know how many people have ever tried the little white box and done the fasting mimicking diet. You got to do it. It's olives. It's actually plant-based ketosis for 5 days. You do get ketone bodies. You can measure them. Fasting mimicking diet. There's a commercial name, but it's easy enough to find. It's calorie restriction for 5 days, and then when you refeed, your stem cells appear in the bloodstream. So
Another advantage that can be obtained from caloric restriction, fasting, and also sauna. Sauna, heat shock proteins seem to help the body to eliminate debris as well. And so that's
quercetin,
interesting.
we were talking.
Quercetin, we mentioned that earlier.
Onion, apple, garlic, or quercetin. Maybe green tea, maybe acai berry. There's a few things have been said to kick
and
your autophagy
ashwagandha has
up.
been implicated recently too.
Ashwagandha.
But Dr. Doug Spiel, I think you have something to say.
Well, there's a couple of pieces of literature that add predicate evidence to some of that. In line with the fact that our bodies are constantly losing cells and we're dying every day, we're actually regenerating. What happens is with age is that the apoptosis or death that we go through, we can't keep up with regeneration. When you talk about autophagy and death and apoptosis, it's our burden as scientists and medical doctors to try to increase the regenerative capacity by upregulating your stem cells. And when you talk about other forms of autophagy, I think we should also talk about predicate evidence of protein aggregate disease. So with protein aggregate disease, there's some good examples in the neuroliterature. Alpha-synuclein, which is a protein that will accumulate in patients with Parkinsonism. There's tau and beta amyloid in people who have Alzheimer's. There's Huntington protein in people who have Huntington chorea. And it's actually been shown that stem cells have at least 2 methods of getting rid of these protein aggregates to get you back on the path of life.
And new exciting technology that is presenting itself very recently is CRISPR, gene editing. And certainly gene editing technology is going to play a big role in all aspects of the future of medicine. Does anyone familiar with CRISPR technology, breakthroughs in CRISPR?
I sadly think CRISPR has a long way to go.
Oh, well, please tell us.
And
Explain why.
recent public. I mean, it's something I'm interested in peripherally because of my biochemistry. But there is always, you can sequence a genome, but my genome's not like your genome. And what's been found is that, yes, you can target that one part of the genome you have, but there are lots of other non-specific mutations that are being caused by it. And I personally think there's a long way to go before you can stop that. And you will never be able to foresee it because I have different nucleotide structures than you do. So it's always going to be sort of a hit and miss type of a thing, Russian roulette, and people are slowing down on it. In fact, I think the last FDA trial was stopped. So that's correct.
When we do CRISPR, we're basically cutting a little snippet of DNA and replacing it with another snippet that we think is more normal, so to speak. So kind of so they get an idea what we're talking about.
Right. There's a condition called familial hyperlipidemia, and a person in a million has a cholesterol of 1,000 will have a heart attack by age 10, and we know the gene, and that would be an awesome, opportunity to give a 9-year-old a cholesterol of 150 without medication, but that's the hope. So one of the topics we wanted to talk about that it'd be interesting to see is the microbiome. When we talk 10 years from now, will we be having novel therapies of our trillions of friends that are living inside of us, and will we be able to alter them through the natural ways we talk about, diet, fermented foods, and avoiding processed foods? Are we going to have breakthroughs? I'll just share with you, because some of you may not know this, the Cleveland Clinic identified in 2011 a new metabolite called TMAO, trimethylamine N-oxide, which, if elevated in the bloodstream, causes your arteries to take up cholesterol into foam cells more aggressively, shuts down your HDL, shuts down your kidneys, and is a new biomarker that's able to be tested. It seems to be related to choline and carnitine through eggs, red meat, or supplements. So they announced at the Cleveland Clinic this week and published in Nature Medicine a blocker, very interesting, called a C-cut. It's a choline analog, so you'll be able to have your egg yolks, your red meat, and take the choline analog. Now, this was in mice, and they'll have to do human studies, but they're very optimistic that we, within just 7 years' time, found a new marker, and maybe not just a marker, actually causative metabolite for, very serious disease, and are on the path of a new way to manipulate, actually, bacteria in the microbiome by blocking choline receptors and faking them. So anybody with microbiome thoughts, the future, longevity, health? Are we doing microbiome testing on our patients in clinic? Is that too early?
I'd like to say something.
I think you're entitled there.
Well, with regard to microbiomes, it's a topic of discussion at the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. And the evidence is that altering your microbiome can alter all aspects of your health, not just digestion, but your mental attitude, depression, your processing speed of information, because we do have trillions of bacteria in our gut, and our gut is our second brain. And we are controlled by the secretions and the digestion that occurs within our gut. And so having a healthy microbiome is essential, because the microbiome controls inflammation within the body. It controls our blood pressure, controls almost all aspects of our health, and is very poorly appreciated and just now becoming somewhat understood. There have been people, and many people, and many reports of people with very severe GI disease, such as ulcerative colitis, who have been essentially cured by transplant, by fecal transplant, which is designed specifically to change their microbiome. So I think we've only just begun to hear about the benefits of this. Is there anyone else?
Entirely. Yes, sir.
I think it's very critical to be careful with how we manipulate the microbiome. And we've seen the disasters that have occurred with C. diff and the overuse of antibiotics, not only in hospital environments, but also in our food sources. So there is an enormous amount of money being spent fighting human disease that's caused by disruptions in the microbiome. We are carrying bugs in us and on us. And I think that there's been a lack of attention to how we keep our bug population healthy. And I think that's something we need to focus a lot on.
Good, thank you.
My original background in another life was as a parasitologist. So I'm fascinated by the interaction between parasites and the human immune system. And one of the things we learned was that, we evolved over a very long period of time. And one of the issues that we're seeing now is an over-sterilization. And a lot of autoimmune diseases are actually unheard of in countries where you have chronic intestinal infection with parasites, systemic infection with parasites. Our immune system is so naive that using these antibacterial soaps and not letting our children eat off the floor. So I think that we're in a situation where we're over-sterilizing and our immune system is completely out of whack. So there's a lot to be said to be more commensal with the microbiome, and also I'm not saying that we should go out and purposely infect ourselves with parasites, although a lot of parasitologists over the years have done that. But I'm just saying that we need to be careful of over-sterilization, overuse of antibacterials, antibiotics, because this is how we evolved. This is how our immune system learned to work. And we're really messing with a system that has evolved over millennia, and we're putting it out of whack. We're really screwing around with our immune system because we're over-sterilizing.
So the next topic is a quickie one, which is 3 personal habits you do for your own personal plan to be alive and healthy in 2029. Everybody here is in regeneration and longevity research or longevity practices, so I'll kick it off. I use an infrared sauna almost every day. I practice transcendental meditation every day, and I've eaten a plant-based diet for 40 years.
I did give myself 50 times the dose of exosomes that you would normally give someone. And I did see my wrinkles go away 8 months later. They came back 8 months after that. But that was a pretty interesting result.
Eliminate things that really don't matter anymore, to focus on the good, to minimize the bad, maybe watch less politics.
I'd like to tell you that I take a lot of supplements. I take all the right ones. So I take a little turmeric and some CoQ10 and other things. And I like to sleep when I can, and I certainly do enough exercise when I can get in the gym and my kids aren't waking me up or they'll let me to do that. I think probably one of the big changes for me over the years as I got older, pretty much from my 40s to 50s, I tried to eliminate carbohydrates. I used to love to eat bowls of rice and all that good stuff. And then, you know, as physicians, we talk about burnout a lot. So we talk about stress. Well, I think the biggest thing is if you do what you love every day, you'll never work a day in your life. And we talk about having egosyntonic behaviors. And for a lot of you, I think that really means doing things that you enjoy doing so that every day you're not beating yourself up for whatever you're driving to.
Well, that's well said. Now, one of the things I do, you know, I'm in my 60s now, later 60s, certainly go to low carbs, a lot of exercise every morning, 5 o'clock up exercising. And I do some intravenous stem cells a couple times a year, and I take a handful of supplements. And the one that I'm really fond about now is NAD. I'm really, after all my reading, I'm reading and learning that I have to turn on my sirtuin genes. You know, I think everything we're talking about here, I think it comes down to one very important thing, our mitochondria. When those guys go, you're gone.
Are you taking NAD as NR with pterostilbene, with resveratrol?
That's an interesting thing. Pterostilbene is interesting, and it's spelled with a P, it begins with a P. They say that's much more bioavailable than resveratrol. So I take them both. I'm hedging my bets, but yes, I take NAD. Now, interestingly enough, we're looking at something called an NAD kinase, because I don't think you get enough NAD even intravenously. So we're looking at increasing the enzyme in our body to make more NAD available to the cells.
So for the scientists out there, and speaking from personal experience, I'd say if you want to live longer, don't do a postdoc, because a postdoc will kill you. It's rough. But in seriousness, you know, hydration. Hydration is very important. I think drinking water is really underrated, but I think we need to all do it a lot more. And you know, Doug and I, we seem to agree on a lot of stuff, and I think that a positive mind state, being very positive, try to ignore a lot of the BS that's out there, but just be really positive. I mean, I'm very active in the Lyme community. You know, this is a very terrible disease, and it's growing by 300,000 people a year, and these guys really go through the ringer. So be grateful for what you have. Every day, you wake up grateful and be happy. And if you're lucky enough to have family, hug your family and be happy with your family, because you know, one day it's all going to be gone. You know, we're stardust. We're only here for a short period of time. Live in the moment and just try to be happy.
That's a very good point. Thank you so much. For myself, three interesting things that I'm involved in that I feel strongly about is, number one, I drive a big car, 6,000 pounds or more in your car, and if you get into an accident with another car, well, chances are you're going to come out on top. Not that I recommend that you want to come out on top, but it's better to come out. It's better to be there than on the bottom. So drive a big car, because trauma is still a leading cause of death. An automobile accident is a leading cause of death. I'm involved. I take metformin. I believe in metformin. It's been around for 60 years. It's a very safe drug. It probably is protective against type 2 diabetes. It certainly can help regulate blood sugar, and the benefits are very high, and the downside risks are low. The most exciting thing is education, and the education is coming so fast and so furious. So I kind of add that as my third item. I keep my ears open. I keep my ears to the ground, and through my position, I'm very blessed because I have access to all the major medical news and research sources around the world. But you can too. The American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine is a nonprofit 501c3 public charity, and we spend millions of dollars creating worldhealth.net, www.worldhealth.net, and there are literally over 100,000, almost 200,000 references specifically on the topics that we've talked about tonight, on the topics of anti-aging, regenerative medicine, stem cells, cell biology. It's all there for you for free at www.worldhealth.net, and I would urge you to use that as a resource, an educational resource for yourself, because we're right on the cutting edge. We're running out of time, and that's really what this is all about. That's what anti-aging medicine is all about. It's about having the time to enjoy your life, to enjoy your friends, your family, to live and love, and to accomplish what you want on this planet before you check out. And that's what we offer, and that's what the American Association of Stem Cell Physicians is offering. And I really want to thank the man who's responsible for making this event happen, Dr. A.J. Farshian. Thank you, Dr. Farshian. And thank you all for being here, and thank you for choosing anti-aging regenerative medicine. We are the future of healthcare. We are the next generation of healthcare. Everyone is following in our footsteps, and God bless you all, because you are the doctors, the scientists, the researchers who are making this happen for humanity. Thank you all so much, and God bless.